Hey there guys, in this video I am doing a review of the new Panasonic G85 Lumix camera. Some of the features of the Panasonic G85 include 5-axis in-body stabilization. If you use an optically stabilized lens with the in-body stabilization, you get about 5 f-stops of stabilization on this camera. Without an optically image stabilized lens, it's about 3.5, maybe 4. The camera does record at 4K video, 30 or 24 frames per second. It has 100 megabits per second video MP4 format. And there's a battery saving function that disables the electronic viewfinder when not in use. The camera is sealed to be splash proof and dust proof. The main display on the G85 is touch sensitive, so you can use it as a focusing pad, which is pretty fantastic. You can also flip it forward if you want, and you can use it as a preview for selfie vlogging work. The G85 also supports these new SD cards, the UHS-2 types. As you can tell, there's extra pins on the back. The card I bought myself has 80 megabytes per second write speeds. You don't need that for 4K, but I went with it anyways. This is the camera. I'm walking around my backyard. I have it on the manual video mode with Cinelike D, 4K resolution, and aperture priority mode set, so 3.5 millimeter aperture. I'm going to zoom in on that tree. Right now I'm at 12 millimeters, 12, 40, 50, 60. Let's try that again. And okay, so 12, 18, 25, 40, 50, 60, 60, 50, 40, 25, 18, and 12 millimeter. Now just pull the lens out, or the screen out. I also have it set to face tracking automatic mode. So it's really kind of nice because it detects my eyes and it keeps those in focus. I'll just walk around a bit here. This is at 12 millimeter. It's a pretty good focal length, I think, for doing vlogging. Background isn't really that soft, but you don't want it too soft, I guess, for vlogging at 4K. The sky is blue, but it's coming out a little bit white on this camera, and it's sunset, so it's a little bit dark. But overall, it looks pretty good to me. I'm going to try a few more lenses now, just to give you an idea of what type of bokeh effect you can get with some more expensive options. Okay, this is the 9mm fisheye by Olympus. This is about $100. It's only an f8, so it's actually probably not good enough for this low light. But just to give you an idea of what it's like. So this is the fisheye. It's an f8, 9mm, and it's a manual focus. The lens does not get detected by the camera, obviously, so you have to manually enable the option to use a manual lens. You're not going to get as much image stabilization with this, if any at all, because I didn't really say which type of lens I was using. So, yeah, take it for what it is, guys. And so in this setup, I have the Panasonic 15mm pancake lens. This is an aperture of f2.5. It's a prime lens, so you can't change you can't use a telephoto option, it's fixed. But it's a pretty good focal length, I think, for vlogging. It's equivalent to what you might get with an iPhone with 4K mode. It has a slightly soft background, which is nice. The aperture of 2.5 is bright enough to be using it in these dim lighting conditions. It does have autofocus, no optical image stabilization, so you only have half the optical image stabilization that this camera offers. It's a compact lens, very light, very small, so I would say this is a pretty valuable lens to get if you value a travel compact option for this camera. Okay guys, so in this video I am now doing the same lens. This is the 15mm again, but with an adapter on the front. This adapter converts the lens into about 11 millimeter. It keeps the f2.5 aperture, so you get this wider field of view. In Micro Four Thirds with all these crop sensors, there's not too many compact, wide field of view options that have good aperture. Okay, so in this demonstration, I am using a lens that I probably would recommend you not use, at least not for video logging when you're hand holding, because it's a very heavy lens. It's a 17.5 millimeter Voigtlander 0.95 aperture. So this is a very fast lens. It's manual focus, it's pretty expensive, and it weighs a ton. So holding it with one hand right now is going to get very tiresome very quick. But what you can see is you get a very soft background, and it handles low light very well. So I kept this for last in case it got dark. I can't really tell if the camera's focusing on my face properly. The LCD display isn't big enough for my eyes to see if it's in focus. And although I have peak focusing on, so you see little dots where it's in focus and not, the Panasonic G85 doesn't really have the greatest peak detection. So it works with certain things that are maybe 4 meters away, but things that are closer than that, it really struggles to detect and give you that peak information. So I'm finding it actually really not as valuable as I thought it would be. Upgrading from my old Olympus, I was expecting the peak focusing to help a lot more with focusing. But what has helped is that the EVF does have a pretty big high resolution display, so I can just use that. Okay, so this is the standard video mode. This is vivid mode. This is the natural mode. This is the monochrome mode, mono mode. This is the L mono mode, L mono. This is the scenery mode, scenery. This is the portrait mode. This is the Cinelike D mode, Cinelike D, probably my favorite. This is the Cinelike V mode. So this is just an indoor test using the kit lens.
Light. Are you gonna have some spaghetti or some pasta? Pasta and pasta. Yum 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 yum.
A photo taken handheld using HDR mode at dusk. And this is just a night test. You don't really have that many options with ISO when you're recording at 4K. So just to show you what the noise is and how much exposure you can get at night using this stock 12 to 60 millimeter lens. Okay, so it does come with an app. It's the Panasonic Image app. I'm using Android. When you open up your phone with the app, it asks you to connect your camera. I hotkeyed the button here, the function button, for Wi-Fi. So when I press it, the camera goes into Wi-Fi mode. You can hotkey anything, change the function generally, any of the function buttons by holding it down for a few seconds. A menu pops up and you can then change the settings, change what you want it to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually click display. I'm going to say check my history. It will list all the hotspots I connected to before. The camera can act as either a hotspot itself, or it can connect to a hotspot. I'm going to have it connect to my home internet, to my home router. I already set it up so it has that as a favorite, and now with the app open, it automatically connects. Okay, so now we're in. Now we have some options on the phone. We can go to this remote wireless control option, and then we see The stream, the camera stream, is sent to the phone. You can transfer images, you can geotag, snap a movie, photo collage. There's quite a few things you can do. Everything is pretty quick. To give an idea of the motion lag, it's very small. It's a couple frames of lag. It's a 30 frames per second, 640 by 360 stream. So if I go to manual mode, and if I go to manual movie mode, the crop on the sensor changes. I'll look at that in a second. And I looked at the API. I accessed the API for the camera and listed all the functions that are available. Although I can't get it to work, there is an API function for a 200 megabits per second MOV format and MP4 format at 4K. The camera records at 100 megabits per second max currently. I'm wondering if there perhaps is the capability to record at 200 megabits per second with this camera. It's just disabled. I'm going to play with all the API functions, and if I can figure out a hack to enable them, sweet, I'll make another video. But there you go, guys. The app's pretty sweet. It's a little slow, but it works. Here I'm capturing the wireless preview, the motion JPEG stream to my computer. You can then re-upload that to YouTube as a live video if you wanted to. But what you'll see here is in 4K video mode, the sensor is a little bit cropped, because when you compare it to the photo mode, which is uncropped, it's about 10% wider on the horizontal. So in 4K video mode, you do get about a 10% field of view crop. That's a lot less than what the GH4 had in the past, where the GH4 had a substantial image crop. So in this next test, I'm looking at the external microphone input on this camera. I'm using a Shure SM57 in this case on the left channel, and I'm using a Shure SM7B on the right audio channel. So the SM7B is going to be much quieter than the SM57. But I'm not, the settings are all default on the camera. I just plugged the microphones in. If you're curious how, I have a XLR connector, a dual XLR connector that terminates to a 3.5 millimeter audio cable, and that just plugs right in. So there's no preamp in the chain, just the preamp being used inside the camera. These are two difficult microphones to drive. Again, they're passive. They don't take phantom power. The camera won't support phantom powered microphones unless you have a battery in the microphone itself, generally. You can hear the background noise. There's also probably a hiss introduced by the preamps on the camera. The SM7B is going to be particularly hard. It's down here. Whatever. It's on a mount. It's going to be particularly hard to drive. It has a very low output. The SM57 is a little bit louder, so it looks like it's actually registering. There's no headphone port on the camera, so I can't hear what I'm actually saying. That's a little bit annoying because I can't really get too much feedback. But once I did plug the microphone jack in, I did notice that there's a little meter on the screen display that says the volume of each channel. So I can see that the left channel is quite a bit louder than the right channel. The right channel is almost having no input at all. So it's probably going to be very noisy or very quiet at the very least. The left channel seems to be doing pretty adequate. It's a little bit odd that the microphone input is right where the screen is. And so actually turning the screen around, it's a little bit challenging because the input blocks a little bit. So you have to push the screen back and then turn it around if you want to do a selfie mode. It's also a little bit odd that the microphone meter is right by the headphone jack. So it's actually blocked. So you can't see it when you're looking into the camera. You actually have to turn your head and look around the microphone jack plugging into the camera to actually see that meter. Not the best place, in my opinion, to put the meter. That would have been sensible to put it somewhere else on the screen. Okay, and just for comparison, guys, this is me speaking directly into the microphone built into the camera from about a foot away. So in closing thoughts, I don't have too much to say about the camera. I haven't had enough time to play with it really since getting it a week ago. Battery life seems okay so far. 4K video recording to the SD card seems a little bit limited for my needs. I might get an AC adapter if I can find one or make one. I did notice that when I was playing with the Wi-Fi and that if I had the display off and I was just using Wi-Fi or I was just using HDMI out, battery life would run for hours. So if you're using an HDMI recorder, perhaps this camera is perfect for you in that regard. You don't need an AC adapter. You could go for hours of session recording that way. Either way, battery life was pretty quick to charge. A full charge in under 2 hours. I was getting close to a full charge in under an hour. So the G85 is still pretty early to market. I have noticed a few glitches with the firmware. Already one of them I think was fixed, and that's the image stabilization in video was a little bit wonky. I noticed an issue where in the 4K photo mode, if I turn the camera off before it finished dumping the buffer, the camera wouldn't turn off, and it kind of just got stuck in this persistent loop. A few Wi-Fi glitches here and there, but nothing serious. So overall, I'd say the camera's relatively bug-free. So this camera seems to be a pretty nice sweet spot for people who want to upgrade from beyond an iPhone for video and photography. It does both jobs pretty well. It has a Cinelec D and Cinelec V profile, so you get that dynamic range profile that many other cameras don't offer. You have microphone input, you have image stabilization, you get pretty good photos, really sharp images that you don't normally get with most other 16 megapixel Micro Four Thirds cameras. So overall, I think this camera is a home run. It's under $1,000, $900 without the lens and $1,000 with the kit lens. For $100 extra, I think the kit lens is a fantastic deal. It's 12 to 60, it's a very usable range. Image stabilization, so you get the most out of this camera by having it. I'm hard-pressed to think of a better camera for under $1,000 that will suit most consumers' needs who are looking to really push the limits of photography and video. So that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up would let me know. If you didn't like it, though, give me a comment below. Let me know how to improve it. That would really help me out. I have a lot of hardware I want to review in the next coming months, probably. I haven't really had time to review it yet, but I'll get that out. If you want to check it out, subscribe. Mostly audio, video equipment, things like that. I also have some software hacks I'll be releasing soon. A couple for the Lumix cameras. I want to release that software that lets you upload your live stream from your Wi-Fi preview on the camera to YouTube Live, so you can play around with that. And if you guys like it, I'll keep working on that too. The easiest way to get notified of when that gets published is to subscribe, and it would greatly help me out, just motivate myself to continue this channel. Anyways, questions below, and I'll try to answer them. Thanks, guys.